Thanks for joining me today in Closing the Loop Insight to Action. My name is Brissette, and I'd love to get started to roll you through some of our incident management response process and how we utilize the Sumo Logic, CSE, and SIP platforms. Now, I am with SYKES Inc. We are a global BPO company, and what that means is business process outsourcing. So all of your customer service interactions, call centers, items like that, you can consider part of the SYKES space. But the beauty of the way that SYKES approaches the BPO space is that we are so much more than just customer service. The way that technology is leveraged throughout our environment to drive interaction through different customer experiences for our clients, it really provides this element of making SYKES not only a BPO, but a tech company as well. So there's a lot of different tool sets at play that help support the different interactions when it comes to generating leads or customer interactions and tracking the full cycle of actually retaining those customers as well. And as I mentioned earlier, my name is Brissette. I am the Senior Manager of Global Information Security here at SYKES. What that means is I cover multiple elements of information security related to threat management, vulnerability management, and our overall security architecture. How that plays in directly to our Sumo Logic friends here is part of the CSE platform that Sumo Logic has acquired. We have been utilizing heavily at SYKES for the last year and a half. That plays in well to our threat management and incident management process here at SYKES, and I'd like to actually give you a little bit of a look under the hood in how we actually go from insight to action and close the full loop on our incident management process. Part of closing the loop obviously involves that incident management process that we were talking about. This process goes from preparing to detecting to assessing, responding, and actually providing lessons learned and input from our overall actions when it comes to incident response. Starting with the preparing cycle, a lot of work goes in ahead of time, right? We've got active work going on constantly within our CSE and SIP platforms to actually design and understand the incidents before they become incidents and before they bubble up into responses. And through that process, we move into detection, which is one of the key critical items of the CSE platform is the detection capability. So really reducing the noise of signals and alerts and records and actually providing intel to insights is critical in the detection process. Now, once it has been detected, you've obviously got a period of assessment of identifying what are the key activities associated, what are the key players associated, and who needs to be involved to actually get to that resolution point. The response comes in through engaging multiple different tool sets or individuals to actually leverage out the incident response and close that portion of the loop. And finally, you'll hit on the improvement process. Lessons learned are obviously critical in any workspace, particularly when it comes to lessons learned and the incident management process. It's critical to take actions with items that you have learned through your incident management process. Now, touching on the preparing stage of this full loop. A lot of our interactions at SYKES comes down to leveraging the third-party intelligence and the individuals that have more knowledge than we do in some of the spaces. And that partnership is critical when it comes to our SpecOps engagement. Now, SpecOps is a portion of Sumo Logic that does active threat hunting, but more in particular, they provide us with that preparation before the incident. So that preparation looks like reviewing our rule set to make sure that we're detecting what's most important to us, that we are actually tuning out items that are accepted or known to be false positives for us, and really digging through the data to understand it well. That SpecOps engagement comes in as a critical ally to understanding what we're actually looking at. And the final piece of that engagement is really enhancing the actual event details. So when we identify, hey, this insight or these signals have come up, we need to understand better what this means, and we need to enrich this data. The SpecOps engagement is critical to be able to leverage out and quickly get through the event details to actually understand more of what's going on than what may be on the surface. Along with our engagement with SpecOps, there's processes and procedures that go into preparing and providing you with overall quality in your incident management process. So here at SYKES, we've developed a couple different processes to help with our overall cyber incident response management process. That includes building different swim lanes out. So these swim lanes, we've identified critical teams to actually identify direct actions that these teams should take in response to every incident that we have. And throughout that entire swim lane process, we are also developing and have developed some playbooks associated with different behaviors and items that we've identified and lessons that we've learned. We've enhanced our playbook process so that when we do engage those swim lanes, there's actionable details and items that we can push through and get resolution faster than we did last time. Additional items in the overall processes is identifying who's the key players, not only from the swim lane perspective, but from the actual resolution perspective. Obviously, here in security, it's easy to just say, cut it out, shut it down. We'll focus on the confidentiality side of the CIA, but the business really doesn't appreciate that. So it's really trying to balance out that CIA and complete interaction with individual teams to make sure that any action that we are recommending as security is not also negatively impacting availability in a way that throws that CIA out of balance. One critical item that we've built and developed at SYKES is our incident management team. A lot of us out there have a lot of slim teams when it comes to information security, not only in personnel, but also in some of the knowledge gaps and items that have come up and through that. But through a process of engaging our operational security teams, we've been able to leverage some of the less technical experts in our security operations team to throw into our incident management team. And what that has allowed us is the ability to respond effectively without a large information security team. And that's been a critical item to identify and develop within SYKES, is actually leveraging other teams and having these other items that we're going to be walking through to help support that overall process of properly leveraging resources that may already be available. So moving from preparing to detect, we'd like to identify that detection is one of those critical elements when it comes to any incident management. Without the detection, there's no incident to really go after. And with any technology out there, there's a lot of noise, not only from the individual systems themselves, but from the overall alerts and what may or may not be critical to different organizations. There's just a lot of details to wade through. The critical part for us at SYKES is being able to wade through a lot of that stuff automatically and ingest data to a reduced format so that when we take our 25 million daily records and we reduce them to 175,000 signals, we're actually able to reduce that to just a couple of insights. And those insights is what provides us with the exact details of what it takes to go after the incident, to go after whatever is occurring in our environment and focus on what's actually happening, not just the noise that is bubbling up. The insight detection is actually allowing us to find a whole picture. So rather than alerting on singular events or anomalies, we're actually able to take a little bit further of a look if dwell time kind of spawns out a little bit longer. So if there's a simple activity that isn't really going to produce any results when you look into just the single activity, but over the full dwell time, it provides you with a better insight of what's actually happening. You can better respond to these incidents and information that is, you can better respond and you can better respond to the insights and information that you have at hand. What we've also implemented is some different elements of entity tracking and reducing some of that signal data to give us direct information of the actual activity that has occurred so that we can better respond and know what it is exactly we need to be looking at. From that detection phase, we move into our assessment phase. So our detection and insight has boiled up and given us detailed information of what's going on, what has occurred, and now we have to hit that assessment phase. So one of our swim lanes really digs in deep here of assessing overall. So we've taken the different information that we've got from our prepare and detect stages, and we're providing more context to the different swim lanes for assessing these individual insights. So for us, it really comes down to that entity identification. Knowing who the actual players are and who we need to get involved is the first critical step for us. The playbook actions that we have available is a critical component in actually getting those players to execute on resolution. There's been times, obviously, throughout the learning process with this tool that without direct action, a insight may just end up being a response of, I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to do nothing with it. I'm going to ignore it. So the playbook activity actually helps give us direction to provide through the incident management process on actual resolution. Some of the other assessments that we make within the tool set is different threat intelligence sources that we have so that we can quickly identify if we've got relevant information related to threat activity, so we can either escalate or readjust SLAs based on that information that's been provided to us. And again, through this whole process, assessing who needs to be involved is one of those critical items. And that's where preparing ahead of time helps make this assessment period our shortest period that we actually sit in when it comes to incident management. Now, of course, after you've done your assessing, you want to actually hit that response capability. Now, the incident management process that we have follows a rough guideline of how to respond, but those playbooks are giving actual details and information to the individual team members on what activity is it that we need to be going after, how do we need to be evaluating this, and how do we need to move through this. That has helped create quicker responses in a lot of cases when not only do our incident management team members know what it is they're looking for, so do the individual IT or operational leaders who are responsible for responding to this actual event. The engagement of all those parties is always critical in that response process, and monitoring the actual status is one of the key elements that we found to overall response techniques, not just leaving it as an alert, waiting for somebody to pick up and just work it individually, actually taking the time to monitor the status, engage the full team, and really track what's happening, what's our dwell time on resolution, and different activity related to response. So confirming resolution comes from this response activity, not only through those playbooks, but through engagement with the SpecOps team and with the information security team. We can actually evaluate the actual resolution of what has occurred. SpecOps comes in handy here a lot. Not only do our tools that we have internally provide us with the ability to confirm resolution, but we get a second step of validation so that not only do our internal stakeholders know that, hey, we've checked it and we've checked it twice, but any of our clients that may ask for a response into any activity, we've got the ability to validate not only did we check it, but a trusted vendor of ours has also validated this activity. And as a final process throughout the entire stage, you're hopefully getting feedback as it comes through. At this point, you don't want to get to the end and then solicit feedback. Throughout the response procedure, you want to be engaged to identify areas where there is feedback. Oh, hey, this playbook doesn't make sense. Or, oh, hey, these action items don't apply here to these systems. It helps you improve and cut down on wasted time throughout the full incident response process. Not only do you want to improve throughout the process, but you do want to track certain KPIs or SLAs as you go through the actual CSE platform. Some of these items you want to make sure that you're careful not to over-define them so as to provide your team with such a narrow focus that they're only focused on closing tickets and not actually getting good results. KPIs can be counterintuitive if they are focused on time to resolution or number of insights closed, because they can unbalance the teams that are actually working to focus more on closing it rather than confirming that the incident has actually been closed. Different procedural updates come from this improvement stage. So as I was mentioning, the playbooks that are in use, identifying any new tool sets that may come in handy, any areas where we can enhance the data. So if we're working through and there's just not enough data, going back into the SpecOps team and actually evaluating, hey, how can we make this data better, not only for us in InfoSec, but for the teams that are responding to these incidents. Regular reviews here kind of also help as you go through the actual KPI section engaging with those teams to really understand where they're feeling pressure related to KPIs or SLAs, where things are going well and where they're not going well. And then the final piece that works into all of these improvements is obviously the automation. So through different technologies, whether it be SOAR or other items that can be scripted, API calls, different items like that, the playbooks really come in handy, not only for individual level response, but to eventually hit that automation stage. At SYKES, we are working towards automating more of these processes that we can, so that we can help make sure that our incident management teams are responding appropriately and actively utilizing resources in the best way that they can. So the automation piece definitely comes into play with those playbooks, because it actually is giving us direction and items that we can track in terms of action status, so that when we develop new technologies or integrate more technologies within our platform, we can actually help respond quicker, and there's less of a lead time when we actually get to a full automation or SOAR index that we want to build out. Now, one of the items that I've been discussing throughout this whole conversation is kind of those swim lanes and different teams and engagement. So here at SYKES, we kind of have a bit of a review process and flow chart that we've developed. And what's in front of you here is part of where we hope to end up with our automation, is that our Security Operations Center can analyze insights, run playbooks against those insights, and automatically create resolutions or automatically engage different teams, and throughout the process, identify the same flow of incident response, so that items that aren't in the playbook can be added to the playbook where necessary, or items where they require more interaction, there's actually a quicker response time to engagement. And a lot of what we've got is just direct interactions with that team and with the overall playbook development. And this is one of those critical path items that we've got that kind of assist us in identifying where we can get to and where we can eventually automate. A lot of this involves the partnership and relationship with SpecOps and the Sumo Logic team to not only understand what it is we're looking at, but be able to provide the right context because of the data sources that are in play. Overall, this process is where we're aiming for and what we're getting to, but when it comes to closing the loop, insight to action, I hope that I've provided some helpful insight.